Hello, folks. Today I'm going to talk about Oscar De La Hoya from Golden Boy Promotion. Somebody asked Oscar De La Hoya, what's next for Virgil Ortiz Jr.? And Oscar De La Hoya mentioned he would like Virgil Ortiz Jr. to fight Terence Crawford. And the reason I believe Oscar De La Hoya said that is because if Virgil Ortiz Jr. fight Terence Crawford, even if he loses, Virgil Ortiz Jr. becomes the A side against other opponents in the future. In other words, he's getting all the attention in that fight, putting himself in a better position on the A side, and also to get more money. And I'm talking about Virgil Ortiz Jr. Because he fought Terence Crawford, it's going to elevate his boxing game. And it's all about putting yourself in a nice spot to make the most money as possible. So what Oscar De La Hoya is doing is right, perfect. He's trying to push his fighter to get the most money as possible and also to be on the A side. So when you're negotiating fights, guess what? You're getting most of that money. Also, Oscar De La Hoya mentioned that Joe Rogan, a movie director, was talking to him during Joe Rogan's podcast. And then one of them said that, why is Oscar De La Hoya commentating on Terence Crawford and I believe other fighters? And Oscar De La Hoya mentioned because he's a promoter and a commentator, and that's his job. That's what he's supposed to do. And this is how naive and ignorant Joe Rogan is. This is the same ignorant Joe Rogan that he talks about other UFC fighters. The same thing he's complaining about Oscar De La Hoya, he's doing it. You're commentating. You're talking about fights that's happening, just like I'm talking right now about fights that's happening. So Joe Rogan's very naive when it comes to boxing. He thinks he knows boxing, but he doesn't. Joe Rogan, many years ago, mentioned that Cain Velasquez, when he became the UFC heavyweight champion, he was the first Latino to win the heavyweight championship in any sport. And of course, that's wrong. The first Latin fighter to win a championship was years back, was John Ruiz, when he became the heavyweight champion in boxing. So Joe Rogan sometimes talks out of his, and what comes out is nothing. Joe Rogan is sometimes is so far fetched, so far to the corner. So that's why De La Hoya was going off on Joe Rogan, calling him all kinds of names. Because a lot of these UFC fighters and workers like Joe Rogan, they don't get it. They don't get it. They think they expert in boxing when they're not. A lot of these fighters and people working in the UFC, Dana White, they all hate the boxers. So that's why they're going back and forth with Oscar De La Hoya and Dana White. Dana White doesn't pay his fighters a lot of money. In the meantime, Dana White uses all his fighters, and when Dana White don't have no use for his fighters, he throws them out. Doesn't care. Just like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan doesn't care. Joe Rogan makes $100 million a year. Nobody cares. So they go back and forth with Oscar De La Hoya. They go back and forth with a lot of other promoters, and they pretend they know about boxing when they've never been in a boxing ring. So that's why Oscar De La Hoya snaps at them, because they don't know about boxing. It's just like Oscar De La Hoya will not talk about UFC because he's not a UFC fighter. He's a boxer. So that's why he's talking about Terence Crawford and these other fighters. But you got Joe Rogan, very naive when it comes to fighting. So a lot of these fighters and promoters, everybody's going back and forth against each other. From boxing to UFC to baseball, everybody thinks they know everything. And I believe everybody should stay in their lane. If you're UFC, talk about UFC. Don't try to be an expert in boxing when you're not a boxer. Don't try to be an expert in UFC if you don't know nothing about UFC. And I'm talking about commentating. Not so much you being a fighter, but so much commentating. If you don't know about that, don't open your mouth. And that's why Oscar De La Hoya was talking about Terence Crawford and other fighters, because that's his job. He's a commentator. He was commentating. People asking him questions. He's also a promoter. He knows the business inside and out. And that's my take with Oscar De La Hoya and everything that's going on. If you like this video, like, share, subscribe, comment. Check my playlist for other videos. Thank you for watching and have a great day.